I am so glad they added the purple coin collection to this game. Anybody that played a 3D Mario before this knew that there was going to have to be some sort of collection challenge. Specifically, a 100 coin collection challenge. After all, not only did the previous games have you collect 100 coins in each stage to get a star, or I guess a shine sprite in the case of Mario Sunshine, but Mario Sunshine also had all of those blue coins. So naturally, even though Mario Galaxy was not going to be as open sandbox style as the first two games, you'd still expect it to have some kind of collection in the same vein. Now, I think they could have just stuck with the regular 100 coin collection, since effectively the purple coin collection is more similar to that than the blue coin challenge, but I guess if they wanted to make this stand out as its own type of objective specific to Mario Galaxy, purple works as well. Also, I guess it's not entirely like the 100 coin collection, but then again there was a big difference between the 100 coin collection in Mario 64 as well as Mario Sunshine. If you recall, when you were collecting the coins in Mario 64, it just kind of felt more natural, more organic, or so to speak. Like they didn't design the stage around the star, rather they just added the star to the completed stage. And that's basically because the stage never actually changed throughout Mario 64 for the most part. And it's also the same reason why whenever you'd play the stage, you can collect a 100 coin star and not get kicked back to the hub world. In the case of Sunshine, they didn't have a specific episode for the 100 coin collection, but if you were to collect 100 coins, you would be kicked back to the hub world there. Not to mention the 100 coin collection during Mario Sunshine varied depending on which episode you picked. But that being said, where Mario 64 felt more like a search to discover where the coins were, Mario Sunshine felt more like you were trying to figure out where the gimmicks were that would give you the most coins. Which is why during my playthrough of Mario Galaxy, I wanted to figure out two things. The first thing was whether the coin collection would be more similar to Mario 64's coin collection or Mario Sunshine's coin collection. But that's only if the 100 coin collection would actually feel like those stars and shine sprites. Because my second question was whether this would feel more like the blue coin challenge in Mario Sunshine. On that second question, I'm fairly comfortable saying it's less like the blue coin collection, although the way some of the purple coins are hidden just kind of give you the same feeling. But no, it was definitely more like the 100 coin collection and not like the blue coin collection. As far as whether it felt like Mario Sunshine or Mario 64, well, it's a combination of both and neither sometimes. And I think the only way I can really explain that is if we go through them one by one. Keep in mind these stars are technically comet stars, so I'm going to go through them in the order of which they appeared for me rather than the actual stage order. Although on some of the occasions more than one appeared and I just went to whatever was closest to me. Another thing to note is that I am technically doing this out of order. I've yet to go over the Bowser fights, and technically you can't collect these coins until after you beat Bowser. Which means not only am I going through a purple coin challenge, I'm effectively going through the bonus content. The post-game stuff, if you will. Not including Luigi. Oh, and a quick note, I am not going to go through all of these 100 coins. I'm not going to tell you where to collect each one of them. Each stage will mostly be me sharing my thoughts on the difficulty, the enjoyment, and a brief review on the type of challenge that it is. Starting off early on in Good Egg Galaxy with Purple Coin Omelette. So this one throws you in the same area as one of the earlier stars where you were meant to feed a hungry Luma so you can move forward. You could basically fly between 3 or 4 different planetoids while collecting all the purple coins in between them, as well as collecting the ones on the actual planetoids. I don't have too much to say about this one, and that's primarily because this felt very similar to when I was flying between the planetoids to collect all of the star bits so I can feed that same hungry Luma, which made this feel just a little bit too repetitive. But that being said, I also think it was good for an introductory one just to kind of get your feet wet. There's also a bit of a puzzle involved in knowing when to spin and when to not spin and go through the launch stars. But I think I literally just spun every single time I got to a launch star in the sky, and that's what got me through all of the purple coins without having to retrace any of my steps. So as far as this purple comet goes, it kind of just feels like more of what we saw in Good Egg Galaxy. Introductory stuff that just kind of gets you used to what's coming up. My enjoyment level is not all that high, but I also don't really hate it. And it's pretty easy. The next one that I ended up going to was in Honey Hive Galaxy. Thankfully, I found this one to be a lot more enjoyable. This was more similar to Mario 64, except it was a little bit on the nose. And what I mean by that is that the purple coins are all scattered around you so you can see them very clearly and you know what you need to collect. And they kind of lay them out for you so that you can follow a specific path to collect them as you move around. The neat thing, however, is that there are certain pockets and hidden areas that you will have to use a little bit of your platforming skill and critical thinking to figure out how to get through. This is compounded by the fact that there is the giant bottomless pit in between the levels, so if you do fall down, you will have to start over, as well as a handful of risky jumps you'll have to make. This one definitely feels more like a typical sandbox collectathon where you have to grab 100 coins, and I don't even have a caveat. I don't think it's too easy. I think it's just the right amount of difficulty. You could very well beat it in one try, or you can get to 87 and 88 coins and then fall off the cliff. It's probably on par with the average 100 coin collection from Mario 64. So it's probably no surprise to you all that I thought this was pretty fun. And next up is Battle Rock. This one could be a pain. So you're revisiting that auto-scroller section on the outside of the Battle Rock, except as you move along this time you have to collect every purple coin on your way. In order to make this a proper challenge, they made it so that there were exactly 100 purple coins. The previous stages had only 100 as well, but some of the upcoming ones don't. And if you make it to the end and you have less than 100 and you speak to Gizmo, you lose and you gotta start over. This one is honestly not anything like the Mario 64 one nor the Mario Sunshine one. It's really its own unique challenge. At first I thought it was kinda lame because I was finding it pretty easy, and it just felt like we were doing the exact same thing we did during the level and then the exact same thing we repeated to get Luigi. But you'd be surprised how hard it is to get exactly 100 coins. It's not terrible, I think I only repeated it 2 or 3 times, but specifically on the moments where you're under the saucer and you gotta know whether to push up or down to move yourself forwards or backwards, those moments could easily make you miss a single purple coin and have to start over. And if you start over, it's back to the beginning and you have to move at the stage's pace, which just adds more to the punishment. All in all, once again, I think this had a pretty decent difficulty, but it does lose a few points for me because of that whole running upside down thing, making it feel like a failure is the game's fault and not your own. But I did enjoy it. After Battle Rock, I took on Ghostly Galaxy. This is another pretty gimmicky one. You have to collect 100 coins here, but there are more than 100 coins available. The catch is the entire thing is on a pool star challenge. Oh, and you only get 1 minute to accomplish it. This one is hard to explain why it's difficult unless you're actually playing through it, but that 1 minute timer will surely make you repeat it a few times. The issue is, in a lot of cases, you have to kind of slow down to a halt in order to be able to move to the next purple coin without hitting the pieces of meat or the obstacles in the way. But at the same time, there are some turns where you need to kind of let the momentum carry you so you can hit the arc on the outside. Basically, what all of this adds up to is a fairly difficult challenge that you'll probably have to repeat a few times to get a hand on, and usually anything with pointer or motion controls plus difficulty is a good time for me. Following that, we have Gusty Garden Galaxy. Over here, you're grabbing the purple coins on the puzzle cube. This is the same cube that we had to chase the bunny on during the regular stage. So I don't mind the actual setup of the challenge, or the idea and logic behind it really. I have 2 primary issues with this one. You get a 2.5 minute timer, which I felt was a little bit too much, and you also have more than 100 coins available. There's no gimmick here since you're really just running around the cube, and at no point in time did I feel threatened or feel like I was going to be losing this. I mean, personally, I want to say 2 minutes would be the right number, especially because I finished with exactly 31 seconds remaining. But it also took me only 1 attempt, so if I had failed the first time and got a more optimal idea of how to run through it the second time, I probably would have succeeded even if it was only at 2 minutes. Also, keep in mind the timer is not only for collecting the 100 coins, it's also for running back to the star. In this case, it did not affect me, but in the previous one, I didn't mention it, and it was kind of annoying there. I think there were 1 or 2 times where I got the 100 coins, but I didn't make it to the star in time. And in order to succeed, I ended up adapting to make sure that I collect the final few coins in the area where the star was going to spawn. Which is why I think the time limit here on the cube would have been the same idea. If you ran out of time the first time, you would develop an optimal route to make sure you end near where the star spawns. That being said, Gusty Garden Star feels similar to Good Egg Galaxy, where it's kind of just like, okay, and the challenge is not really there. And next up is Beach Bowl Galaxy. This feels exactly like Honey Hive, more similar to Mario 64 than anything else, and it makes sense because these 2 stages are sandboxes. There are exactly 100 coins available, and you gotta collect every single one of them in a single life. This one is actually easier than Honey Hive because there are fewer ways to lose a life here, but basically in the same manner that I enjoyed the hidden star in both Honey Hive and Beach Bowl Galaxy, I also enjoyed the purple coin collection in both Honey Hive and Beach Bowl Galaxy. And yes, it is because they are open sandbox stages, and yes, it is because I felt like I was playing an old school collectathon. A tip of the hat to lovers of Mario 64. And speaking of tip of the hat to lovers of Mario 64, the next one is Freeze Flame Galaxy. You're collecting purple coins and climbing up the summit. The neat thing is there are purple coins everywhere. Any random routes or bonuses that you decided not to go through when you're playing through the game before getting to the end are paths that you're just going to have to learn this time around. You're going to cover all of the ground, you're going to get all the way up to the peak, and after that you're going to take a launch star back to the beginning where you're going to find the first 2 purple coins that you missed because they were on the step that you just jumped down on when you first started the stage. I don't have much to add that I didn't say previously. This is a typical collectathon style star. The challenge is in the search itself, and I think that's a decent difficulty, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Dusty Dune is a 100 coin collection, but it is more or less on a linear path. There's no time limit on this one, but because of all the quicksand, there's a very likely chance that you will have to lose a life and start over. Due to all the hazards and the amount of time you gotta spend using the tornado to collect the coins, I think this one might actually be the most challenging one of the collectathon style ones so far. But the challenge itself feels a little bit more unique than those ones anyway. It's actually hard to group them in the same category. The ones with a time limit felt like the challenge was figuring out how to beat the clock. The ones in the sandbox felt like you were trying to figure out how to get everywhere. In the case of this one, you can see where all the coins are, but the challenge is figuring out how to pick them up. If anything, Dusty Dune might be more similar to what we did in Battle Rock, but realistically, it's in its own category. Once again, this is another one that I really like. I think the difficulty is really good, and I wholeheartedly enjoyed the challenge, and even though I got a little bit upset when I was at 80 something coins and got knocked into the sand, I couldn't help but smile because the game was challenging me. Next, it's Space Junk's Purple Coin Spacewalk. Although for the sake of transparency, I actually played this one second. But while I was working on this video, I forgot to mention it earlier on, so I'm squeezing it in over here. This one is a time challenge. 2 minutes to be exact, in the same area that constructed and deconstructed where we collected silver stars. You're not really collecting 100 purple coins in a conventional manner. More realistically, you're seeing how quickly you can get to the 10 platforms that carry the purple coins and make it back to collect a star. I enjoy this one a little bit more than I enjoyed Good Egg Galaxies and Gusty Gardens, but I don't hold it in as high as a regard as I do the other ones. I think it's a good challenge, but I think it's too easy. Since you can see all the purple coins, you know exactly where the platforms will be built, so you can just long jump and collect the coins. I think it would have been a little bit more fun if the purple coins disappeared along with the platforms and then constructed with them as well. But as it stands, it's a little bit too easy, it's kind of enjoyable. Nothing terrible, nothing amazing. And then we head back to what is probably the most popular purple coin challenge in this game. Toy Time Galaxy's Luigi's Purple Coins. I still haven't figured out if this one is famous or infamous. The way I see it, and this might be a thought that's worth delving deeper into during the conclusion, people that think that Mario Galaxy is the best game ever usually hate this star. Whereas people that usually find this game to be too easy and as a result boring in some instances, like this one a lot. Maybe even love it. But I also could be completely wrong on this one. It might just be my arbitrary experience with the conversations that I've had. That being said, I didn't think Mario Galaxy was boring necessarily, but I did think it was easy, and so stars like this are amazing to me. Despite Mario being way easier to control, this feels like a Mario Sunshine star if there ever was a Mario Sunshine star in this game. It just feels like this could easily have been what we saw in the secret area challenges over there. So, funnily enough, when I did the Silver Star challenge in this area earlier on, I remember when I got to it, I was excited to face the challenge. And then I beat it without a sweat. And that's because I had actually completely forgotten that the purple coins take place in this area. But basically, this purple coin pickup was so memorable to me that even when I wasn't doing the purple coin challenge, just seeing the 8-bit Mario triggered this memory for me. That being said, there is nothing as enjoyable for me as a pure platforming challenge that knocks you on your butt for 20 minutes, and this one surely did knock me on my butt for a good 20 minutes. Actually, this time it was more like 5 or 6 minutes, but I remember the first few times playing it, it really gave me a hard time. So it's not only good, it's potentially my favorite one out of the whole bunch. After that, it's Gold Leaf Galaxy. Now obviously, despite this one being a sandbox, they couldn't do the same thing they did in Honey Hive Galaxy and make it just a straight up collectathon. Instead, they give you a route that's pretty similar to the one that you took during the Cosmic Mario race, slap on a 3-minute and 30-second timer, and force you to grab everything along the way, including areas where there's a minor split. This one is a bit on the easier end, but I did find it enjoyable. Also, since it is a linear path, I appreciated that whenever you would run by a bumblebee, they tell you how many purple coins you should have. That way you don't move on to the next segment before going back and collecting everything in the previous segment. I feel the same about this one as I did in Gusty Garden, in that I think the timer was just a little bit too long, but I enjoyed the path to collect all the coins here more than I did in Gusty Garden. It's good enough. Following that, we have Deep Dark Galaxy. The mission is plunder the purple coins, and you'll get thrown right down into the cave in the area where you fought Kamala during the base game. Despite the fact that this is a pretty small area, this one might be the most difficult of all of the sandbox-style purple coin stars. And that's because they do a pretty good job hiding them anywhere and everywhere they can. There's a hidden underwater segment behind where you start where a jellyfish sits that has some purple coins, coins all around the wall on the left that you might not spot when you're going through it, and coins above the ship, below the ship, on the ship, and even hidden in areas close to the ship that you could easily miss unless you slow down and really pan your camera around. I'm actually kind of impressed how difficult they managed to make this one. It feels the most like a Mario 64 coin collection than any other star in the game so far. Although realistically, if this was Mario 64, these coins would be spread all around the stage and not confined just to this cave. Either way, it's a good challenge, a good difficulty, and a fun star for me. Even if the last 3 coins took me way longer than they should have. And next, Sea Slide is awesome. Again, this is one of those things where when I was playing the base game and I got to the star that involved collecting the 5 silver stars, all I could think was, why is it so easy to collect these stars? I feel like I remember having to fly over everything without losing my power up. And that's because in actuality, it was the purple comet that I was thinking of. That was the challenge I was remembering from my previous playthroughs. You grab Bee Mario and you basically have to do a whole floors lava game to collect all the purple coins around the area. I find this one to be a lot of fun. It's a good way to test how much you can control Mario's flight in the air, and at the same time it gives you that collectathon feel during a linear stage, similar to collecting medallions during a 2D game, for example. Obviously there are a lot more purple coins than there are medallions usually in those games, but the idea here is that you're going through a multi-layered, linear path, and you're searching everything you possibly can along the way. Another really fun one for me where I appreciate the challenge, as well as the difficulty. And I don't intend on doing a separate tier list for the purple coins, but I will say that if I was doing one, Sea Slide Galaxy would not get nearly as much hate from me as it did during the base game. That's how much I enjoy this star. Dreadnought Galaxy basically does the exact same thing that we did in Battle Rock Galaxy. The whole grabbing purple coins as you go through the auto-scroller. The difference is I actually don't think this one is harder than Battle Rock like I did in the base game. And that's because in Battle Rock, in the segment where you had to run upside down and collect the purple coins in a circle, I was really struggling. I struggled here too, but it was more basic platforming struggles. I don't really have anything to add to this one. It's good, challenging enough. I kinda wish they didn't do this for the purple coin star, but at the very least, it offers a challenge. And finally, wrapping it up is Melty Molten Galaxy. You're basically doing an open sandbox in the starting area of the stage. The coins are pretty well spread out. A lot of them are creatively hidden, whether it's on the sinking platforms, within the lava that rises up, or even in the volcano. You'll have to know when you should or shouldn't use the launch star, and in general, you'll have to be comfortable getting around the stage. This one's pretty average, and in saying that, I mean it's average compared to the other purple coin stars. The thing is, I think the average purple coin stars are basically some of the best stars in the game, and I think that's just a testament to how much I enjoyed the actual purple star challenge. Put it this way, I think the worst of the purple coin stars are as good, if not better, than most of the stars in the game. See, here's the thing. I can appreciate that this is technically post-game content. I can appreciate that it's meant to be harder than the base game. The problem I've been having is that through most of the game, it feels like everything is just taking too long to get there. Like I mentioned in previous segments, around Freeze Flame Galaxy and beyond is where I felt the minimum difficulty of the game should have sat. Which means by the time I was getting challenged in Deep Dark and Toy Time and Melty Molten Galaxy, the game was telling me this was the peak of the base game challenge, but for me it just felt like the next step up from what should have been the introductory difficulty. So now that I'm doing the purple coin challenges, I don't really feel like they are post-game difficult stars necessarily. They feel more like endgame stars, if that makes sense. Like these last 15 stars should have been what gets you to go to Bowser, and then beyond that there should have been something crazy difficult for the players that want to master the entire game. Because the problem I have now is that despite doing these 15 purple coin challenges, it was really only about 2 hours of gameplay, 15 stars out of 120. And obviously not all of these were hits, and some of the ones in the base game were a lot more difficult and a lot more enjoyable as a result, so this discussion and this point is a bit more fluid. But basically what I'm trying to get at is that I'm very happy these purple coins were implemented because they offered me that challenge that I was seeking throughout the entire game. It's just a bit unfortunate how long it took for that challenge to show up. With all that being said, I think Mario Galaxy offers more as an experience that I didn't really delve into as I was going through this retrospective. Yet. There's a story, there's background, there's lore, and there's a feeling to this game that I think is worth going over in the next segment. We'll talk about this back at the Comet Observatory.